Hello. Welcome, friends. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Cincinnati. It's a great day at Club 17. We welcome John Cunningham, Director of Athletics for University of Cincinnati. John, you have a lot of friends in the audience, a lot of Bearcats out there. We are really appreciative of you joining us. We're really looking forward to your presentation. As we do, we're going to begin our meeting with a song. Today we're going to be led by Bob Brandstetter, accompanied by Kay Atkins in America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
And now a four-way test and invocation by Steve Dreyfel.
Thanks, President Steve. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Almighty Father above, we thank you for granting us a day of fellowship and friendship with our fellow Rotarians, friends, and guests. We thank you for today's meal and those who prepared and served it. We thank you for sports and the athletes who bring us exciting moments and who devote themselves to be the best they can be. Our city is blessed with many teams at all levels, recreational, high school, college, and professional, who have brought us moments of joy and moments of disappointment. But through it all, we can look back and be thankful that we had the opportunity to attend these sporting events and be part of those moments. Many of us have played sports and have watched our children and grandchildren enjoy playing and competing. We thank you for that opportunity. Father in heaven, thank you for blessing us with those who work behind the scenes for their teams. We know who the players and coaches are, but we seldom think of all those who make it click and run smoothly, from athletic directors to the maintenance crew. It takes a full team to make those playing successful. Now, Father, just as athletic teams work hard to be successful, let us as Rotarians work to advance our mission by putting service above self. Amen. And now please join me in reciting the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you.
Please remain standing for a memorial to Julian Magnus.
Our fellow Rotarian Julian Magnus passed away on June 7th at the age of 92. We're pleased today to have his wife Carol with us, their son Rick, and daughter Nancy Kopnick, and her husband Sanford, and as well as his brother-in-law John Frank, who is a 66-year Cincinnati Rotarian, and John's wife Susan. Julian was very active in Rotary for 52 years. He served as president in 1983-84, bringing in 59 new members. And he was a Wally Emmerling Award winner in 2011. For those who don't know, the Wally Emmerling Award is given to great living Rotarians. Julian graduated from Walnut Hills High School and the Wharton School of University of Pennsylvania, majoring in finance. After graduation, he served in the Army for 2 years and then joined the family municipal bond business, Magnus and Company, and worked there until retirement. He was an active volunteer serving as president of Valley Temple, volunteer coordinator for the Jewish Family Services, driver for the Cincinnati chapter of the American Red Cross, and patient transporter for the Bethesda North Hospital. Julian and Carol enjoyed spending summers at their home at Crooked Lake in Michigan that his grandfather had built. Julian was a sailor, a fisherman, as well as an avid bridge player. I was privileged to get to know Julian through Rotary Bowling. Julian, Don Keller, and I were assigned to the Rays team, later known as the Roys, and the fourth member of the team would change over the 10 years we bowled together, but we three remained the core of the Rays. Although there was a 20-plus year age difference, we quickly discovered that we shared the same sense of humor, and we teased each other constantly. One of the things I miss most is when Julian would get a twinkle in his eye and a smirky smile, and he was going to hit us with a zinger. We knew it was coming. We three soon developed a special bond, and Julian and Don quickly became my best friends in Rotary. Julian was also a competitor, whether he was sailing, competing in bridge, or bowling. We knew we could count on him when we bowled Dayton to bowl above his average, and it drove them crazy. The last year Julian was able to bowl, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. We all knew it would probably be the last time he'd be able to bowl. He still was a faithful bowler, being there every week, missing only when he was fallen and was too sore to participate. He stumbled on the lanes a couple of times, but finished the year and was most improved bowler. It's rare for anyone to increase their average by double-digit pins, but Julian was 12 pins over average. It's amazing considering his balance problems. The picture on the screen is when Don and I met Julian for lunch, and I presented him with the Bowler of the Year mug, or the Most Improved Bowler mug. We enjoyed our time together, not knowing it would be the last time that the Roy boys would be together. Julian told me later that the times he spent with Don and I were some of the best times, and I certainly agree. You will notice bowlers today are wearing bowling shirts in honor of Julian. We all miss him. We'll now observe a moment of silence for Julian Magnus.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Magnus and Kopnick families. We miss Julian every day. On behalf of the club, we wanted to present you, Carol, with Julian's badge and this plaque of remembrance for our dear departed friend. Turning to guests and prospective members, welcome Michelle Starr as our Sergeant of Arms today.
Hi, welcome to Rotary Club 17. We would like to introduce our guests and potential members. Please stand when I call your name so that we can recognize you. Briston Mitchell. She's here with Nahamani Yisrael. Xavier Pierre. He's here with Michael Schatzman. Jerry Smith. He's here with Jim Young. Chris Barnes is here with Jim. Young. Okay. Oops, I missed that. Mark Coleman is here with Jim Nyhard. Thank you.
Great. Welcome, guests. We hope you come back and return and join us in service. Now, a word from our meeting sponsor, Andy Magenheim.
Thanks, President King. Today I'm sponsoring the meeting really in response to the support the club has given me over the last 4.5 years as I've been a member, and I really appreciate it. My practice is called the Pi Financial Collaborative. Many people generally, when they see my business card, think I'm selling apple pies. That's not what it is. Actually, the Pi Financial Collaborative is an equation explaining how I work with people navigating the financial world through formal planning. As an overview, the equation itself, the pi e cubed, it's really similar to what the volume of a sphere or the Earth is, 4/3 pi r cubed. Holistic planning. And the pi itself, you break it out into two components. The P and I really stands for plan and implement. Doing proactive solutions ahead of times and integrating them so that they're not conflicting with each other and give choices for later. I deal with both protection and investment type solutions. It might include disability, long-term care, life insurance, and that risk management allows for managed investments, protection and investment. The practice is a true fiduciary practice using the CFP ethics under the Registered Investment Advisory of Eagle Strategies owned by New York Life. I have a fee-based planning model, over 15 different insurance carriers, including long-term care, disability, life, and some others, and over 70 investment managers. The E cubed is really the power of the whole thing. It's about engagement. And engagement allows to develop mutual relationships and trust in asking the right questions. Takes some time, usually. This is an overview of how we assist clients navigate the long-term financial industry. It allows for active decisions to be made for choices later. So I'm so thankful to the club for allowing me to participate here for the last couple of years. It's really helped me get through a tough time, the pandemic and everything. And for the new people that are here, I hope you consider joining. And of course, Julian Magnus was one of the first people I met. And so my condolences to you. And oh, one more thing. Tuesday was Pi Day, 3.14. So I did bring in a pie that we're gonna raffle off with.
All right, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Andy, for sponsoring our program and our meeting. Sponsorship really helps support membership development, so thank you, Andy. We appreciate it very much. At this point, I'd like to recognize a foundation grant recipient. And to make that presentation is the allocation chair, Jim Brooks, who's also the president-elect of the foundation. Jim, take it away.
Thanks, President. As many of you know, the Rotary Foundation of Cincinnati actively solicits and allocation grants for solicits and distributes allocation grants for local nonprofit organizations whose missions align with those of our club and with Rotary in general. And not so coincidentally, the allocations committee was an active cause of Julian Magnus for a whole lot of years. Today, I'd like to introduce you to our most recent allocation grant recipient, the Alpa Family Economics Center, which is ironically connected to the University of Cincinnati. The Economics Center's Student Enterprise Program addresses poor financial literacy in our community by teaching K through 12 students basic economic and financial literacy concepts. Joining us today is the Executive Director of the Alpa Family Economics Center, David Mann.
Thank you, Jim and President Steve, for that introduction. As Jim mentioned, I am David Mam, the relatively new Executive Director of the Alpaugh Family Economics Center. I've been in the Midwest for a little bit under a year now, and I thank the Rotary Club for having me come here now for the second time. The first time I came was only a few months after moving to Cincinnati. I was able to join in with your Rotary Do Days and volunteer at Camp Allen, and that was a very, very inspiring and very inspiring way for me to get involved with the community. Met a lot of awesome Rotarians, and it really demonstrates your commitment to the community, so I thank you for that and for this. I do want to speak a little bit about what we do at the Alpaugh Family Economics Center. We have two wings, two arms. You might be most familiar with our research and consulting arm. We do a lot of economic impact studies for municipal and private clients. You might have seen our latest work for Western and Southern and Cincinnati Business Courier recently. But at the heart and soul of what we do is engage in financial literacy and economic education in the K-12 space. And our application was specifically to help us with our Susan Sargent Student Enterprise Program, and the Rotary Foundation has been a tremendous help, and we thank you again for that. A little bit more about that, about our STEP program, as we call it. What we have is a program where students, through positive behavioral actions, doing homework, coming to school on time, things like that, are able to earn STEP bucks, and with that money, with that money, they're able to purchase things that we bring to the school. A lot of times we bring frisbees or sunglasses or necklaces, but also we bring school supplies that many students aren't able to buy on their own. And this might sound relatively familiar. You might be aware of other schools and other organizations that do such things with classroom economies. But what I think makes STEP unique, the way we run it here, is that whole buying process occurs with volunteers from many corporations in the community. And if you haven't seen students who are many times from underserved areas actually interact with sometimes very high-ranking people in law firms or in banks or financial institutions, I think that kind of builds that trust. And I remember some of the comments mentioned earlier about building goodwill, and that happens tremendously through that STEP program. We need to break down some of the barriers between some of these communities that were in Cincinnati and in the financial sector, and this program, I think, goes a long way to that end. So thank you again, Rotary Foundation, for helping us continue this program, and I look forward to coming to future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Boy, I heard a lot of prospective member buying signals right there, being a sales guy. So, it's also important to note that many of our foundation grant applications come to us through club member referrals. The next allocation grant deadline is coming up fast on April 1st, and those applications can be found through the foundation link on our club's website. Feel free to contact me with any questions as well. Thank you.
Financial literacy, that's something I can get behind, right, Andy? Thank you, David, and thank you, Jim, and the foundation for your work. Now for an update on the Board of Directors election process, President nominee Eric Petway.
Thanks, President Steve. So starting out, I wanted to update everyone on the nominating committee process, and also look a little further out into the board's election process. You heard from Mark Romito 2 weeks ago. You heard from me on the email through DACDB about our request for volunteers for the nominating committee. The deadline, as a reminder for that, is on May 1st. We're looking for 4 at-large members who are not board members and 3 alternates, so total 7. We've had a record people of standing up and putting their hands up, and so that's great. But there's still deadline. We still have another month to go. If you are considering that, please, and have any questions, reach out to me directly via email or or in the meetings, but just to give a little color there, a lot of people have asked about time commitment. It is a short window, but it is a tight window. So from July 1st through the first 2 weeks of August, the nominee committee will be meeting, and it will be fast and furious going through all of the officers, candidates, as well as board candidates. So if you are planning a vacation or what have you, we really need you to kind of remove yourself from the queue and offer it to someone else. One other sort of thing that wasn't in the email was that if you're thinking of yourself as a candidate for the board, either as an officer or as a board member, we really we don't need you on the nominee committee because there's obviously conflict of interest. And so if it's something you're contemplating or you know someone's going to nominate you, we want you to consider that as putting your vote in candidacy in for the nominee committee. After May 1st, when all the nominations are in for the nominee committee, the board actually gathers and votes on the final numbers. There will be 3 standing members. It'll be Doug, myself, and President Steve, in addition to 4 standing members who are at-large members. Beyond that, the deadline for the board is a little further out, and it actually on July 1st. July 1st. So you'll be seeing more about that coming up. But if you're thinking about that process or just have questions about how the process works, please reach out to me directly. Beyond the July 1st deadline, the board will vote on the final positions for the board and the officers, and then it will be revealed later on in the fall. And then the commitment would start the following July of the following year. So I just wanted to give you some updates there. Thanks to everyone that has put their name in for the nominating committee. We have many great candidates, and we will reach out to you if we have any questions. And if you want to add your name to the list, you still have time. The other item I want to talk about is actually what's happening this weekend. RYLA, which is the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. Your club, Rotary Club of Cincinnati, is sending a record 6 students to RYLA, which is the highest we've ever sent. And just to give you a factor, we contacted 14 high schools, which is also a record. We received 11 applicants. We interviewed all candidates. We actually have 5 schools, and we selected 6. We had one from Wyoming, one from Indian Hill, one from St. Ursula Academy. We had 2 from DePaul Cristo Rey, and one from Norwood. So very large diversification, and all are women leaders in their community. So we had in the applicant pool, we only had one young man that had applied. So it's great to see the young women to be a father of 3 daughters. I'm appreciative of leaders. So anyway, I also want to have a shout out to 3 outstanding committee members, Bob and Mary Brentstetter, Don Catchman, who did a yeoman's job on the interview and the preview process. I'd like to shout out and have a round of applause for Bob, Mary, and Don. Thanks to all your service. And RYLA is going to be a great event this weekend. And if you have any questions about the board election process or nominating, please reach out to me directly. Thanks for your time, and look forward to the new slate of officers and board members in the future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Great work. Appreciate the update. A few announcements. We have birthdays today. Oh, Christy's making the run. Well, I know that John Farmeyer, it's your birthday yesterday. Are you out here? There's John. Happy birthday, John. Jack Scott, are you in the audience? Is there a Jack Scott somewhere? So Tim, DeVoe, Julie, Glenn, Uta, Michael, and Steve, happy birthday to all the Rotarians this week. Family of Rotary News, congratulations to Rotarian Angie Fisher in Lightbourne for winning 3 gold and 3 silver medals at the Addy Awards, sponsored by the Ad Club of Cincinnati. Congratulations, Angie. So split the pot. Split the pot's getting real, people. The winner today collects $64. If you happen to be a member of the club, you get a chance to draw for the Queen of Hearts. The revolving pot is up to $1,592. Hey, John, would you pick a ticket for me? Great. All right, we're going lavender. I know. I've got a last 3 digits, 979. We have a winner, 979. Look closely. Purple ticket, 979. Going once. Going twice. Purple, 979. We have one? N 979, Owen. Is it by chance in the other pocket? All right. Egg. Come on, Owen. Oh, good man, Owen. Oh, so close. All right. The pot continues to grow. So not to leave the green ticket holders out. A green ticket has been pulled for Pi Day, thanks to Andy Magenheim. You've got a 012 is the last 3 digits. Anyone want to claim a pie for Pi? Hey! All right, Brian! It's a $1,000 pie, so there. Thank you, Andy. You made Brian's day. All right, we've got the next hands-on service project is this Saturday, March 18th, 10 a.m. We are going to be planting trees along the Mill Creek Greenway with the Ohio Valley Forestry Fellowship. Look on DACDB or talk to Hux Miller. March Rotary After Hours. It's going to be held on Friday, the 24th. So that's a week from tomorrow, 5 to 7 at Mary and Bob Brandstetter. Bob, can you wave your hand again? Thank you very much for hosting. There you are. Thank you, Mary and Bob, for hosting. Come one, come all. Spouses and guests are welcome. More the merrier. Bring an appetizer or dessert to share and a drink of your choice. You can RSVP in DACDB. Many thanks to Brian Vielhauer for hosting 7 tables of Rotary Euchre at the Dunlap Cafe. Could have used that pie, couldn't you, Brian? The next Rotary Euchre is Tuesday, March 28th, and it's going to be held at Jan and Owen Rasmussen's home. Interested in playing? RSVP to Owen by March 23rd. And a final save the date, March 30th, our Thursday meeting. It's going to be a roadshow breakfast. We will be at the Height House Studios on Spring Grove Avenue. That's opening day. So we're going to be getting in our meeting early that day and starting early with a cornhole tournament beginning at 8 a.m. And our program that day is John Arati, former reporter and columnist at The Inquirer and co-author of several books on baseball, including Crosley Field and Big Red Dynasty, beginning at 9. So, RSVP and DACDB. All right, without any further ado, I'd like to turn the program over to Jim Nyhard to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Steve. Time is fleeting. We've got a terrific guest today, John Cunningham, the athletic director at UC. So I'll make this introduction fairly quick. I'm sure everybody read about John in the various E-rays and stuff like that. John came to UC in December of 19. 3 months later, here comes COVID. But in that period, since he's been here, UC has been to the Peach Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, which was, of course, the college football playoffs, and probably the biggest thing that's happened and he can dispute this if I'm not right, is obviously the UC joining the Big 12 Conference beginning July 1. And so, again, John's a graduate of Texas Christian University, has a law degree from the University of Nebraska. And so it is my great pleasure to introduce the athletic director at the University of Cincinnati, John Cunningham.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor to be here in front of this group. This is a tremendous group. You do great work in this community. It is felt and it is noticed, I can tell you that. It's also a very distinguished group. Most groups that I speak to would require that you had televisions behind me so you could watch the first round of the NCAA tournament that's going on right now. I think Coach Huggins is taking his West Virginia team in an 8-9 matchup. So I'm happy to be here instead of a BW3s. So this is a good location for me. It's a unique time to be an athletics director at the Division I level. There's no doubt about it. It's a time of disruption. It's a time of change. There's going to be a lot of things happen over the next 3 to 5 years. And if I wasn't in the position I am right now, I would love to grab my popcorn and watch it from afar. But that's not where I'm at. I'm kind of in the middle of it every day. And we need tremendous leadership and some real guidance from the NCAA, from athletics directors, from presidents of universities to figure this thing out and do it the right way and make sure that we're taking care of our young people as well as moving forward into this new realm of college athletics. The realm of college athletics is somewhere in between true amateurism that we've had for 150 years in college athletics and professional sports. We live in this gray area between right now. And so when you think about Nippert Stadium and how long it's been in place and all the things that we've been able to do through college athletics and all the scholarships that we've been able to give out and really changing lives of a lot of young people that would not have had a chance to go to college but for athletic scholarships. So our athletic scholarship system has always been in exchange for tuition, fees, room, board, books, the opportunity to graduate from a great institution without debt, you are a participant in athletics. And you give a lot of time and you give a lot of effort to being a part of an athletics department. So that is changing, and especially it's changing in our revenue sports of football and men's basketball, and I can explain a little bit of why that is and will as we move along. But certainly I think it started about 3 years ago, and ironically that's when I started as an athletics director. I don't think it was me, but I do have staff members that tell me that their lives were easier before I got onto the job. But yeah, so I did take over in my first day was basically January 1 of 2020. The next day we played in a bowl game in Birmingham, and that was my first day. I was a new athletics director after spending 8 years as a deputy athletics director and being at several different institutions, 5 previous institutions before coming to Cincinnati. I felt ready. I was energized. I was ready to take on the world, and I had big plans and felt a real responsibility that I still feel every day. I feel that I am the steward of this great athletics department. There have been so many, and some in this room, that have given so much to the institution, to the University of Cincinnati, and obviously to the athletics department. And I feel a real responsibility to keep it going and to be successful. And so that I was a young gunner, and I was going to go and I was going to put my things into place. So the very first thing I did is I established our mission statement. And it's still something I walk by every day. When you walk into the Lindner Athletics building, it's on the wall, and I think about it all the time. But that's to connect our community through athletics, to drive our university, and to change the lives of our student athletes as they prepare to change the world. And I believe that if you continue to make decisions based on those core principles, just like you read your four core principles, you'll make the right decisions. And it's proven to be something that I think about a lot in the very difficult times and tough decisions that I make. So I put that into place. Felt very good about that, and here we go. And then the next thing I needed to do in my mind was start to prepare for the one thing that was asked when I took the job, and the one thing that kept coming up immediately after I took the job, which is how in the world do we get ourselves into a Power 5 conference? How do I get ourselves into not only the exposure that you get in a Power 5 conference, and you think about ACC, Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, not only do you get tremendous exposure, but how do you benefit from the windfall of revenues that you can get through being in those conferences, which is something that, although Cincinnati has always outperformed its resources up until up until actually what's coming up in July, we were not able to benefit from the huge revenue dollars coming from television contracts, massive revenue dollars. And so, again, the path to success, long-term success for Cincinnati, with the investments that had been made, really speculative investments over years and years and years, the path was Big 5, or you're going to have to do something different. And so it was certainly something that was in my mind immediately. And so I formed a group called the If and When Committee. It was kind of a clandestine group of administrators that I pulled together, and we would meet every 2 weeks. And all we did was talk about if and when there was ever a possibility of the door opening for a Power 5 conference, we needed to be ready. And so we would meet, and that was the second big thing that I put into place. So I'm rolling. I'm feeling great. March 13th, 2020, I'm in the airport. I'm on my way down to Fort Worth, Texas for our basketball tournament, so right around this time of year. And I get a call from the commissioner of the American Conference, Mike Oresco. He said, "John, don't get on the plane. We're going to cancel the tournament. There's this thing going on in China," right? We didn't even know what it was at the time. "There's this thing going on in China. We're not going to be playing the game. Don't worry, in a couple of weeks, we'll all be back ready to roll," if you remember that time. So that was the moment where things really changed, and then it became, like so many of you and so many of your businesses and lives, it became how do you deal with operating during a global pandemic? And specifically, is it even possible to have college athletics during a global pandemic? Can we play any sports at all? Can we have fans, which we didn't? So we went an entire year, if you think about it, we went an entire year without having a single fan in Nippert or in Fifth Third. 32% of our revenue immediately out the door. And again, I already shared, we were already struggling revenue-wise, right? So we had to make cuts, had to make very difficult decisions. Some of the really, really tough days that I've had were in those beginning time when we just started marking down all the different levers that we had to pull to just survive. And again, some of you in your businesses had to do the same things, and it was very, very tough. And if you remember, this is the other piece that to this day still freaks me out a little bit. But we had to go to our fans and ask them to donate without going to the games. And so the way we were going to do that is what a lot of pro and college sports teams did, is they did these fake cutouts of human beings. And I remember walking into Fifth Third one day, and it really creeped me out, you know. And I appreciated those that did it, and I liked seeing some of our donors' faces as a cutout, but it felt so odd. And so to this day, I never want to go back to that. That was absolutely something you don't want to deal with. So I'm an English major. By trade, when I graduated from TCU, and so Charles Dickens might say it was the worst of times, right? But out of those challenges, lessons were learned, lessons of perseverance, lessons of adaptation, like everybody did. We had to do the same thing. We had to figure out how to test our players to be safe and our staff to be safe. We turned Fifth Third Concourse into a COVID testing lab. And we started to work with a group across the river called Gravity Diagnostics, and we were one of the first to find a local group that we're gonna do the testing that we needed to do to stay safe. And so we did that, and it's been kind of one thing after another, and amazing what you can do when your back's up against the wall. And the other point of perseverance for us that was so amazing was the 2020 football season and that team specifically. And if you remember, again, no fans in the stands, but that team went out under the direction of Coach Fickle, and we were able to make it to the Peach Bowl. And so we made it to this amazing bowl game that year, went down to Georgia, had the University of Georgia on the ropes, had them beat, had a couple things that didn't go our way, including an offensive tackle that got kicked out of the game. But it is what it is, but we were very close. And then leaving that game, I remember talking to some of our student athletes about wait till next year. And so obviously they were already focused on what could be. Fans came back, things got a little bit better. But it also, the whole infrastructure of college athletics right around that time started to change, and conference realignment showed up again. If you remember, in the summer then of 2021, we got news that Texas and Oklahoma were going to not re-sign with the Big 12 in terms of their next TV contract, but they were going to go to the SEC. And so that thing that I talked about when I first came on board, if and when, in emergency break glass, we went and we broke glass, and we had a plan of attack. And so we set out very quickly, Dr. Pinto, the president of the university, and I, to try to put us in the best position to get an invite if there was ever a chance. And we had a chance to fly down. We got a call from Commissioner Bob Bowlesby. At the time, we had President Pinto and I had an opportunity to fly down to Dallas. We went into his house. We didn't know what to expect. We kind of were prepared. We had a whole presentation. We were going to do this dog and pony show that we had done before, and we were ready. And we sit down in his living room, Bob Bowlesby's, and he said, we want you guys to be in the Big 12. And I'll never forget Dr. Pinto, who is as cool a cucumber as you can be, hit me underneath the table. And it was sort of like, here we go. And that was it. So it was a really fun flight back to Cincinnati. But then that was the momentum of that year. That momentum of that year, you would call, if you were Charles Dickens, you would say it was the best of times, right? So we get invited to the Big 12, and on September 12th, we get that invite. We also have an undefeated season. We're ranked in the top 10. We get a chance to have College Game Day, the biggest show in college athletics on our campus. We had the best ratings of any show that year. It included spots, and I always mention this because I think it's important. It included spots on Good Morning America, and people forget that. It's not just about athletics. When you have that many eyeballs watching, your brand on blast, it helps the university. It drives the brand more than anything else you can possibly do with millions of people watching. And it's not always about athletics. We went, obviously, all the way through the year, beat Notre Dame, special moment, fun for a Catholic kid from the Midwest. Pretty special, yeah. But beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, and then obviously came back in an undefeated season and got to go to the Cotton Bowl, play Alabama in the Cotton Bowl in front of 16.5 million people. And you cannot buy advertising like that. And the advertising that was actually done during the game, we had 3 spots, and they were not advertising about Cincinnati Athletics Bearcats. It was advertising about the University of Cincinnati and our 1819 initiative and everything that we have going on. When Dr. Pinto talks about educating Southern Ohio, that was the stage to be on. And it drove that brand to a point now that we had 22% increase in applications, and I think it's now 28% increase in applications, and a 45,000 student school is looking to expand and be even bigger. And again, educate Southern Ohio, and one of the ways to do that is through brand recognition, and I'm really proud of what we're able to do. So the best of times, right? So we now enter into another stage, which is prepping for the Big 12. We have to be ready. My goal is to go out and be the best team in the Big 12 in 5 years. That's an ambitious goal. We're going to have a lot of work to do. We're behind revenue-wise from where they've been for the last 10 years. Again, they've been benefiting from the windfall of television money. They've built all their facilities. We're still building. But we're going to have to be more resourceful. We're going to have to be tougher. Clifton-style tough is what we're going to have to do. And so we're really excited about a campaign we call Day One Ready campaign. It's a $100 million campaign. We've raised $85 million. We've had back-to-back-to-back record fundraising years. And now that's going to be something that will change our dynamic because we get a chance to build a best-in-class performance center, indoor facility. If you've been by campus, it's already under construction. UC under construction. It's getting ready to go. And we're going to have a nutrition center in there, and we're going to be where we need to be facility-wise. And now the battle, I was just on TV and radio and doing some press this week, the battle being fought is in the world of name, image, and likeness. And I could talk for 2.5 hours about name, image, and likeness. But just very quickly, there isn't a day that goes by as an athletics director that we're not talking about this new structure. It has to do with a series of court cases that the NCAA lost badly, including a Supreme Court case in 2021 called the Alston case, where the NCAA got beat 9-0 in a Supreme Court case. We can't agree on anything in this country, but if you talk about the NCAA, you're going to get pummeled right now. And so that's where we stand. We've got to adjust. We've got to look at our situation and make sure that we're competing. I said it the other day. We don't have to be the #1 NIL funded group in the country, but we've got to have table stakes. And our coaches deserve it. Our fans deserve it. And so that's where we're at. I am not going to campaign for money. I will not do that. I think that's illegal, standing up here against the bylaws. But just trust me, that's where our battles are right now, and we'll continue to push in that area. Because again, and I'll end by going back to, as long as we make decisions based on doing what we can to connect our community through college athletics, promote our university through college athletics, and change the lives of student athletes, we're going to make the right decisions. And that's what I try to do every day when I hire coaches and when I go about trying to make decisions about revenues. So I'm happy to open it up. I had more information, but maybe the questions will lead to some of that. Sir.
Thank you very much for being here today. I have a question for you. It's kind of a fan-related. Oh, get that thing out of my. I'll use my inside voice. This behavior of coaches, because of the rules with the NCAA abandoning their teams right before critical moments, do you see that impacting fans and people's long-term appreciation for college and amateur athletics? And I bring it up because the mentors that coaches were in my life were amazing. And to see these children being walked out on in their 11th hour after they've given their all for a season to be abandoned time and time again, not just UC but other programs, that's not the spirit of college athletics. It's not the spirit of the lessons that they're preaching. Teamwork, being part of a family, and working on these things. It's turning me off to the whole thing because it's really not about that. It's about a egoistic advantage. And I think the NCAA needs to get serious, and I'd like to hear if you think that is actually impacting the program.
I absolutely do. And this isn't a shot at any coach. And I think there is a difference between, leaving a program before a bowl game that isn't a tournament bowl game. But remember, we had a coach at a school at Notre Dame. We had a coach that left when his school was still in the balance of making the college football playoff. Think about that. So it's something that the athletic directors are talking about a little bit. You do not have the poaching of coaches take place in the NFL. Never. It's not permissible, not allowed. So there's something that we have to do to protect the young people, because you're right. No matter what student athletes receive, and no matter how different generations are, there's still young people that are looking for leaders, and they crave it. They crave it. And if you respect them, and if you give it to them straight, you can coach them hard, and they'll buy into what you're saying. But as soon as they don't think you're authentic, they're out. That's the new generation. So authenticity was the number one thing I was looking for when I hired both Wes Miller and Coach Satterfield, and we're involved in a women's basketball search right now. And it's the number one word on my list is we need people that are going to be authentic, because that's going to be the key. Sir?
Okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so the question is, what do we do about the possibility of a two-power conference separation from the rest of the Power Five? And I think, to me, that's a long ways off if it's going to happen at all. I still think that those power conference, you're talking about the Big Ten and the SEC. They will be the most heavily resourced conferences because of their television deals, which are going to be 2x what everybody else is. But they still need the other schools to be successful. I believe that. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it works for those two conferences to leave. I also think when you think about national legislation, which is one thing that you hear a lot about, is could you get a federal solution? Not everybody in Congress went to the SEC or the Big Ten, and so there's a lot of desire to protect the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big 12, and really all college sports. So I don't see them breaking off. It's going to be a challenge to continue to compete with those schools because they will have more resources. But I think we're well prepared to do it because that's what we have always been. We've always been, that school that's just on the outside looking in, outperforming our resources. So that's why I talk about being Clifton tough, and that's going to have to be our identity when we get into the Big 12 because we're going to be, a little bit behind in terms of resources for a while before we get a full share. And then we keep that mantra going and attack the Big Ten and the SEC and track them down. I don't know. The question was, the Pac-12 survive? And it's all going to be based on what's going to come out in the next few weeks with their television contract. Yeah. Now you're speaking my language. We can go. We'll go over this. We'll go back here and have a conversation offline. But it was 7,000 for 3. But that's right. We're getting there. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So he's asking about a business direct connection with the student athlete and how that works in the world of NIL. And that, again, I could talk a long time, but that NIL was originally set up to be based on market forces and local businesses that are connecting with young people because the young people have clout to drive the brand of the local business. That was how it was supposed to work, right? It's gone a little bit off of that, but that's how it was supposed to work. So we feel like that's to our advantage at Cincinnati. We have great local companies that are already connecting with our student athletes. Kroger did an NIL deal with our female student athletes. We had MedPace that did a cool NIL deal with the Pace brothers last year because it kind of matched up. Now they've expanded to 12 different student athletes in multiple sports. Skyline Chili did a deal with our offensive line. That's how it was supposed to be set up. And I think that still that's going to be something that we're focused on. We have a gentleman named Greg Harrell that is in our office, and so that when you ask who should I contact, he would be the one, and I can give you his information. But we are still going to be very aggressive about matching local businesses up to our students because we're an educational institution, and to me, when they start to be brand ambassadors, they're learning a lesson in business at the same time. And that again, that's the purest form of NIL. What's happening with the collectives is a little bit different. I think our collective is formed the right way, which is we're going to use student athletes to be brand ambassadors for the university and get out into the community and do things with CPS schools and do things with different charities because our student athletes do not have time to get jobs. They do not. This is a full-time deal when they're an athlete. So they don't have time to get jobs. They don't really have time to do a lot of the internship work that a lot of other students do. So I don't think it's a bad thing for us to support them financially. But let's keep it between the poles as an industry. That's what we got to do. Yeah. Yeah. So he brings up a perfect point, which is you really can't talk about NIL without talking about the transfer portal and free transfer, right? You used to, if you transferred in certain sports previously, you'd have to sit out a whole year before you could play, and that usually kept students from not transferring. Now you transfer and you can play right away. So he's right to say they collided at the same time, and it has caused a big issue. And I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. I think what those two things together have done in some cases, it's brought a lot of bad influences around the student athlete, people that don't have their best interests in mind. It has created almost a free agency without a salary cap. Could you imagine the NFL having free agency every year with no salary cap? So you didn't know if you were going to have any Bengals at all. They could go anywhere in the, it's absolutely taking place that way. And it depends on who the student athlete has around them and how much they're trying to get them out there to shop the market and those types of things. And so it's disturbing. And I think what's being lost, and we've got to continue to preach this, what's being lost is a connection you can have as a student athlete at the University of Cincinnati or Xavier or wherever it is. If you ingrain yourself in the community, it will give back to you for the rest of your life, right? If you think of some of those people that we've seen, Terry Nelson, I just had a call with him as I was driving out here. Terry Nelson played for Bob Huggins, and when Terry Nelson walks into a bar, it's a bad analogy, but when he walks into a bar, he's not buying a beer, right? He's one of those individuals that has a name brand about him, and the community embraces you, and doors open for you in the business world when you've played. So I think we got to keep pushing for that. So one more. Let's go back there. You're hitting my bingo board of items, so I'm getting there. But the replacement of women's basketball coach, imminent. I think we're very, very close. So it goes to tell you what the power of the Big 12, because the interest in our women's basketball position was outstanding. Our candidates were absolutely outstanding. So I think we're getting close on that, and we'll get that thing going in the right direction here. And then our apparel deal. Is again, I'm going to say imminent. I think we're close to figuring out where we're going to be for the next few years, and so we'll be able to do an announcement of that coming up. But that's that world, the apparel world, was also very much attacked and challenged by the pandemic. And so it was we went to market at a not ideal time, and it's not just us. Other schools dealt with it too. So we're going to have to kind of navigate around. Could we do something for a shorter period of time? Hope the market gets a little bit better, and then go back out. But we're going to have a great apparel partner. It's going to be exciting when we get to announce that. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
John, thank you so much for your insights, especially over the last 3 years at UC. Thank you for your stewardship, obviously your leadership through COVID, putting us in a tremendous spot as a city, and we're rallying around you and making, I love that line, best team in the Big 12. We, as a token of our appreciation for you coming here today, we wanted to share with you a Rotary Club of Cincinnati coin. One side is the Rotary Club of Cincinnati logo. On the back is the four-way test that you referenced. These are the ethical touchstone that guides our decisions as Rotarians and our mission of service above self. In addition, we want to make a donation to the End Polio Now campaign. It's a 4-decade effort to eradicate that wild polio disease and that dreaded scourge. This close, there's just a handful of cases left, and Rotary International is going to see it through. So let's give John Cunningham another big round of applause. Two final things. We have a membership development meeting in the Julep Room immediately following this meeting. Next week is the Jefferson Awards. There are 3 finalists that have been released. Cincinnati Enquirer and Channel 12 have prepared videos for those 3 finalists. Next week at this meeting, we'll reveal the city's winner, who will go on to represent our community in Washington, D.C. So be here next week for the Jefferson Awards. Don't miss it. Until then, make it a great week. Meeting adjourned.